Most teenagers today grow up in broken homes.
All my friends' parents are divorced, or their father left, or something, of a broken home.
Yeah, when my parents first got divorced, it was really hard. I had a tough time, dealing with it.
I think one of the big problems in college with students is if they have a broken home, that affects you.
My best friend's parents are divorced.
Broken homes not only affect you, they affect your friends as well.
I actually have a friend who's been in a broken home, and she's changed a lot from that. Her parents split up a while back, and she was actually in her teen years too, which is kind of a tough time. It didn't work well for her. She really rebelled, and she thought it was her fault, and it was actually very sad to see this happen to a friend of mine, a really, really close friend of mine.
A broken home could be an accepting step-parent.
My stepdad now, I feel like he's if he was my real dad, so, because he treats me like his only son.
In this edition of Real Life Teens, we'll talk about broken homes and the key role of communication.
I know people that have broken homes. I have a friend, his home is not that good, but it keeps him motivated.
I've been divorced now for 20 years. Were my children affected by the divorce? Yes, of course they were.
Even though I was kind of young, it was tough being separated from my parents because I was used to being with them and had a lot of fun with them.
Although they were very young, they were 3 and 4 years old at the time. They were lost. They didn't quite understand what happened to their dad, where he went, why he wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, 6 years ago when I met my wife, Lori, and her 2 children, Eric and Elise, Eric was very accepting of me, and I was always very curious as to why he seemed so happy to have me in his life. And it came to light about a year into our marriage how he felt about his father and the divorce. It seems that he took the divorce very, very personally.
It's going to be really hard to have a, broken home, but you just have to, sometimes it's just the right thing.
He felt that his father had not only abandoned his wife and his mother, but had also directly abandoned Eric for something that Eric lacked, and that was his perception of it. And to this day, he still craves his father's, his natural father's approval and affection.
That first month in school, they were hiding from the other kids. They thought something was wrong, and they thought it was them, and they honestly did. But that passed. It passed within a week, I would say, maybe 2 weeks.
What effect does a broken home have on you?
Some people just don't work well together, and stuff happens. You get divorces, there's broken homes. Some people it works out for, some people it doesn't.
Well, I had this friend who, her parents split up when she was young. Now she's having problems with relationships because she can't hold a boyfriend. And I see that it affects her, and also the way she thinks about herself, and how she reacts towards things, and how she affects other people around her, and her peers in school and her, work.
She got into drugs, she got into alcohol, and then her dad actually passed, which made it a lot tougher, and she's actually just had a baby, and she's just turned 17 actually this month.
Over the last 6 years, we've experienced some problems in our family. We have a son. He's 20 years old right now. In the last 6 years, I've watched him try to commit suicide 4 times. I've watched him go through a drug and alcohol addiction. We've had him in and out of rehabs. And at one point, we literally gave up all hope on him.
It was definitely sad because her parents were my parents' friends, and her mom's still my mom's friend, but her dad is no longer in the picture at all. And at first, he was, and that was even harder because she's got an older brother, and when he came around, which wasn't very often, he would he obviously had more in common with her brother. They would hunt together, fish together, whatever, and he really had nothing to do with her.
It's also important to stay in control of your emotions.
Well, sometimes when you come out from a broken home, you tend to have a little rage, little disappointment, little anger, and some people take it out on their friends, their loved ones, innocent people. They shouldn't do that because it's just life.
So it wasn't the children's fault at all. It was our fault not being able to get along and to make that life for the kids that we wanted.
Well, I think the biggest issue is resentment towards whoever's gone or whoever's not with them. But it's not really a minority of people anymore. It's the majority. So I think everyone's used to it now because it's so common.
I think that most children that come from broken homes are like, divorced parents and that kind of thing. And the children kind of like act
Negative because their parents love them no matter what.
Every day is a challenge to accept him in our lives and to let him know that he is loved.
she'll now have like problems with her relationships due to the fact that her parents split up and it has emotionally scarred her. So now she would like have trouble maintaining a relationship and keeping it, and that would then further hinder her for having a further relationship with other guys, say like marriage perhaps.
We moved pretty far away, so I could only see my dad, a couple times a year, so that was hard too.
Most kids are like more attached to like one parent. Like if the father leaves and they're more attached to the father, they become more angry and they start to blame it on their mother, the fact that the father left. And that's probably why they act out a lot, like with the drugs and their gangs.
It's not their fault because, their parents still love them no matter what. Regardless if they're together or not, they're still going to love them. So they should just think about that and not take their rage out on anybody else.
Let's talk about the positive sides of a broken home.
In a way, it's good to have a divorce in the family because it wouldn't create conflict with the parents and the children. In a way, it's good, and in a way, it's bad.
I mean, you shouldn't worry about if your parents are split up because my parents are still together and they're always fighting. And I prefer them being separated and always fighting because it hurts more because you see it every day and it just gets on your nerves. You just want to get away from there, but I don't know. I think it's better for your parents to be separated than just stay together and always fight.
Well, your parents really never want to get divorced, but sometimes it's something they have to do to make a better life for you children. I chose that road to make a better life for my children. I did try with my ex-husband. We tried for 3 years to make the marriage work, and it didn't happen.
In most cases, it's better off because your parents are obviously having problems together. And when you grow up, you're going to resent that more and more when they're never even happy.
I think it's not the children's fault, but rather the parents' fault for not holding true to their vows in marriage. Whereas, but then you have to also understand that people will stop liking each other in time.
My mom and dad have been married for about 19, 20 years now.
I don't think they should be mad at their parents because some people just don't get along after after a while. I know I don't get along with my friends if I hang out with them for too long and stuff, so.
It's been better, I think, off than, having my, than if my parents were still together and they'd be having problems. I'd rather, have them split up, and deal with their, life in a different, way instead of listening to yelling, screaming, and problems at home. There's been a differences between them and how they think, and I think that's what makes them argue. I'm not saying a lot, but they do argue more than a lot of other people.
I have this friend in college who their parents they're always fighting, and her parent is always pushing her on, you're not supposed to be doing this. She's tired. She didn't do her work at school. She didn't went to class, and I was like, you know what? You need to have a serious conversation with your parent. Talk about that you're tired of him telling you this. You know what to do, and it's just putting you in a long depression where you just don't want to go to college. You just don't want to do the work. You just don't feel like doing anything, so that affects you.
But I believe, in meantime, they would split up just because of their differences. And I think a lot of parents stay together until their children are old enough to live on their own, so they wouldn't need help as much. But
then again, I'm 18, my brother's still 14. So I believe in about 4 years, they might just split up.
Step parents can play a key role in your life.
I knew someone that had a stepfather, and he didn't like him that much, and he wouldn't accept him as someone that actually cared. And I've tried to tell him before that they have to, accept that, this person they wouldn't be there because they don't care for them. They really want to make a difference for that person. So they should feel like it's not their fault or anything.
Their stepfather, who's been around for quite a long time now, has taken over the father role. He's done just about everything with them. They now call him dad. They consider him their dad.
Her stepdad is I think he's really good for her, and it makes it easier because now, before he was around, they were, her mom always provided for her, but it's not as easy when you're a single parent. So now it's like a real family, and they do pretty well, and she doesn't have since he came, I haven't seen any problems with her at all.
Some of my friends have gone through divorces, and I've just seen it affect them, but they've come out for the better for it. They keep their heads up and realize that their parents really do love them, and even though right now it's not best for their parents to be together, that it's really going to be all right in the long run, and they're doing great now, and they love both families, and they realize that they don't have to choose necessarily. But
I don't see my biological dad that often. But
it's different now, having a stepfather, a stepmom, now 3 step siblings added to your family that are not even, they're from another country, that just came. It's kind of interesting.
Communicating with others is part of the healing process.
If you have problems, you need to talk about it to someone, like either friends, a counselor, and just get help. It's good to just talk about your problems that you're having. It's good to have a good communication with other people. So, for example, if you don't trust your mother, your parents, your friends, find a person, a teacher, a friend, or a mentor. There's mentors who can help you they give you advices how to do with things. They help you to feel better about yourself, and just find a person who you really trust, friend, cousin, anybody who can help you, and they will.
They can find other ways to lash out. They can talk to their parents and stuff like that, and they can still have a close bond with both parents. They just don't try to. Some people just kind of give up on the situation. Like, if the parents, like, the father's like in a whole other state or something like that, they can find to get closer to their mother or find a way to help her out because, she could be going through a lot more than they all. Like, now she's got to take care of, like, 3 kids, and she doesn't have anyone else to help them, and you're lashing out, and you're not really helping the situation.
Seek comfort from friends and family.
I would comfort my friend and then tell him, everything's alright, and that it's not his fault or her fault. I guess it was just that's how things were supposed to end up, and that he had no control over things or the outcome of the situation.
Talk to others for support and encouragement.
But it was good that I had friends that supported. I could go to and talk to them about it, and they supported me. Just knew that my friends would always be there for me if I needed it. We talked to her, and now she's back in order. She's doing well in school. She had done all her work at her class. She got an A, which I think if we wouldn't have talked to her, she would have probably failed the class. She did all her assignments. She just she's like, I'm gonna show my parents that I can succeed, that I don't, not because of what's going on, that they're not gonna stop me from doing what I want. That's her goal right now, reaching what she wants.
They should just, tell the parents that, they don't agree of the fact that their parents are split up, but they should just talk to their parents to let them know how they feel and where they stand, to not keep it to themselves, because that creates rage and madness. Don't break the bond, just because they got divorced. Keep in touch with them, keep communicating, and the more you talk about it, the more it's gonna make you feel better.
You must realize that it is important to continue communicating with your parents. They play a key part in coming to terms with it.
It's your parents' problem. I mean, it's your problem too, but you're not involved in the problem. It's not, you shouldn't have to deal with it. You have nothing to do with it except that your parents are separated.
It's not their fault. It's their parents' fault, pretty much. They didn't get along. They didn't like each other.
Try not to blame yourself for what's happened. It's not your fault.
I would definitely tell my friend that it's not their fault. It has nothing to do with them. It's an issue between just their parents. And if they needed help from it, they could always come talk to me, or there's definitely counselors at school they could talk to, anybody, who they look up to as a role model if they don't feel comfortable talking to their parents or me about it.
A lot of people do think that it is their fault, but I don't think they should see it that way. I don't see it that way. My parents were divorced.
I tell them, it's not your fault. Don't worry about it. The reason they got divorced is not because of you. They didn't get along, and I mean, don't you wish your parents the best, right? So basically, I mean, it's gonna be hard at first, but I mean, just keep talking to him and try to console him and try to help him out with his problems. Peer counseling.
You have to realize that, and it's hard for a lot of kids, especially the younger they are, that it's not their fault.
I can't replace their father. They have a father. What I can be is somebody there that's strong for them, that cares about them, and is willing to love them as their own father.
And sometimes they don't communicate as well as they used to. So you shouldn't think it's your fault, because honestly, I don't think it is.
Just because it doesn't work out with your parents doesn't mean they don't love you. They both still love you. Just everybody makes mistakes.
She understood why her parents were divorced, and it's hard at that age, but now she definitely understands.
I just learned to deal with it, and it doesn't make my parents, bad people. I keep in touch with them, call my dad on the phone.
It's your parents' choice. I mean, they still love each other. It's just sometimes they can't live with each other. It's just their nature inside.
Most divorces are decided mutually between the parents.
Your parents are separated, but I don't think anyone should have to have that constantly in their mind, thinking, "Oh, it's my fault."
The best thing for people who do think it's their fault is to come to the realization that it's not, because the children really had nothing to do with it. It's between the parents.
Just live your life and don't worry about it.
My parents are thinking of getting divorced after 16 years of marriage, and I'm perfectly fine with it because I know it's not my fault. I know they have problems, and this is the way that they're going to work it out. And I know they'll both be there for me whenever I need them and whenever I feel like I need them.
Just remember that with proper communication, coming to terms with a broken home is possible.
After, these couple years of struggle, she has come around and she is going to pull through.
They still love you, and just because they're not living together, it's best for them to live apart, because it might help you better in life, so you won't hear all this arguing as much in the household, but they still love you and they'll always be there for you.
Even through all of our trials and traumas and the anger and the frustration that we've gone through, I still myself have a deep love for Eric, and he has an equal love and respect for me. And today we just hope that we can build on that and make it better than it was before.
Extended families are very common. I have two children, a daughter 13 and a son 11, and I stay very involved with them and their activities. They spend about half their time with me. I'm involved with their school, help them with their homework. I coach their baseball and their soccer. But the extended families just means that the kids have two homes instead of just one, and two families instead of just one. And I think those are our benefits.
If your parents love you, that's all that matters. It's just life.
Thank you for watching this edition of Real Life Teens Broken Homes.